And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a magnificent guest with us coming all the way from Los Angeles, tapping in with the People's Podcast, none other than our great sister and friend, Sister Charisse Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, ma'am. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we thank Allah for you taking time out of your busy schedule to come have a conversation with us today.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we have so many questions for you, and it's an honor to meet you. You watched many of us nation babies grow up, and we grew up with your children and/or grandchildren. So it's an honor to hear your story and your journey, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
First question that we have for you today is on your work and your interactions with our brother, Minister Jabril. What was it like being with him in the West Coast? What was it like?
It was like almost like earth shattering, meaning that he was no nonsense. He made sure. I think one of the things that impacted me was how he said, I just want to tell you everything as much as I can of what I know about this teaching. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that impacted me. And he said, I don't want to hold back nothing. And he did. To me, he did. So that was, I was so thankful to Allah during that time frame that he was our minister for a few months. And it was when we were in sea time. I was trying to research and try to find out when that was, but I still don't know the exact date. But he was our minister while our whole mosque was in sea time in Mosque 27. And he used to not only be our minister here, but he was our minister. He was the minister in Phoenix. So those were the impactful days. And he not only met with the brothers, we had often meetings, MGT and FOI classes together, joint classes, and he would teach all of us together. And the no nonsense part was, he would tell you if you come in late, he said, why you late? You should not be. And these are people walking in late, and he would call them out. And the more people he knew their name, he would call their name and call them out. So that was very impactful. He helped me to be on time to this day.
Yes. Praise be to Allah. And thank you all to everyone who's watching all across the world. Thank you for every like, share, and subscription to the People's Podcast. Sister Colson says, ASA, walaikum salam, ma'am. And we can't wait to put this on YouTube as well. Now, when you say Class C, the whole mosque, okay, could you explain like the whole mosque, why he had to be in the minister in two mosques?
Yes. What happened is our minister that we did have was Brother Khalid. And Brother Khalid was doing something that was unbecoming of a Muslim. And Minister Farrakhan said he could, at that moment, he could no longer be our minister in our presence at that mosque. And so he said, I'm going to send Brother Jabril as your minister. And what we had to do, and he said the reason he's putting all of the whole mosque in sea time is because we, as a body of believers, were complicit in what Brother Khalid was doing. No one said anything. A group of us didn't say anything, and we were very quiet. So what we had to do was come to all mosque meetings and give in charity and be a Muslim. That's pretty much what we had to do. And Brother Jabril, he was going back and forth from Arizona to Los Angeles. And he did that for quite some time.
Beautiful. So amazing history. And walaikum salam, Mimi, thank you for giving both of us the greetings. Thank you all, everyone who's watching. And people showing you love, saying go Sis Charisse, and people saying go Sis Charisse, and womanhood, sisterhood, all that great stuff. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, how was it working with Dr. Khalid? What was it like, being with him in the early days?
Brother Khalid was, I love Brother Khalid. He was our first minister, my first minister when in coming into the nation. And I had a boyfriend at the time who later became my husband. And the way he became my husband was Brother Jabril visited us one day and he said, okay, any of y'all, we ain't no shacking up in here. Y'all have to produce a marriage certificate. And after the meeting, me and my boyfriend, we better either get married or do something. So we decided to get married.
Mm.
So that was our first trial, I guess you could say. So
Yes,
we got married. But Brother Khalid, I loved him because every time coming to the mosque, he would have a question and answer period every Sunday. And he would answer the way he would answer the question, he would give detailed information about the nation. And it's almost like all the questions that the people in the audience had, he had an answer for. And my first time coming into the nation and listening to him, he just blew me away by the way that he conducted himself, as well as the way that he taught. And he always was at the mosque. And his thing was do whatever he can to uplift Islam. And so that person, I became that person. And so now that's how I am, always at the mosque. So, and another thing, what he did was he sometime would close our whole mosque down on Saturday or Sunday, and we would go to another mosque. We went to Oakland, and mind you, I'm one of those Black persons that never traveled. Most Black people, we don't travel. We just go from one dot to the next dot.
Yes, ma'am.
But this was my first time traveling. And we would get in our cars and we drove to Oakland. We drove to Sacramento. We drove to Phoenix and a few other places we drove to as a whole mosque. And of course, us as people, we didn't have the best of cars. So, cars breaking down along the way, but which was really interesting. But we had brother Bashir. He knew how to fix cars. So he patched them and glue them up and we just get on our way. It's so funny. But we as a mosque, we didn't have a ton of people there, but we all knew each other. So by us going to different other mosques, we in the car together and driving together and listening to Islam together. And it was very enlightening for me. And the other thing about Brother Khalid is how he dealt with the people in the community and including them. I mean, it's just like a minister to me should be is community oriented, and that's how he was as well, very community oriented. And I didn't know exactly what happened to him as far as him leaving our mosque to go to the other mosque. And me and my husband at the time, we were about ready to do something illegal, but we didn't. So at that time we were getting ready to, that's when he got shipped off. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad I didn't get whipped up into that one. So that worked out pretty well. But him being gone and that time frame before his death, I didn't know too much of what he was dealing with. And I'm glad I didn't, because the little bit that I heard from other people, it was not, it would raise a lot of people's eyebrows. And I'm glad I didn't know the intricate details. And the other thing is him and what happened to him. It impacted quite a few of the believers because how, to me, I would say, use the word powerful he was at that time frame that we were coming into the nation from 1977 up until the 80s. You know, he was our minister. So some of the, well, my ex-husband, he was one of the ones that took it very hard. And he was beginning to not feel good about the mosque at that time. So he took a turn, and quite a few other believers took a turn. And me and brother student captain Halim, to this day, you know, it's almost like we can count on our hands how many people are in the mosque right now as a result of brother Khalid, which is, you know, a very interesting thing. But if anything, he taught me how to stay in the mosque and how to make sure that you do different things in the mosque. And we had, and the way that I see our minister now, brother Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, is just like I see brother Khalid, because he said he was always behind him when in Atlanta. But he was the type that wanted us to always be on top. And brother Abdul Malik is very similar. We're really the same. I always want to make sure LA is, you know, way up there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And that's how brother Khalid was. And he always wanted to be number one. And we were number one in quite a few things in the nation with brother Khalid. And I remember he gave me, as a woman and as a sister coming in the nation, he didn't stop women progress, in other words. Because I was, we had, and he always included, when we had like the fish program, we had the fish program. So he would include, he would have a joint meeting and say, we need to sell these boxes of fish. And I want all of you all to sell the boxes of fish. We need money for this and that and the other. So we like, okay. So I was selling the boxes of fish. I was at my job selling boxes of fish, and became real good. And never sold nothing in my life. No, yeah, I did sell. One thing in my life I sold was marijuana.
Okay, we can make that.
Scared to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
But this was my first time selling, and I was good at it, selling it to the people at my job. So he helped me, as well as many others, get out of their fear factor of dealing with our people and selling something for the benefit of something that we were trying to do. So, but as a result of him, is he helped me to not be too afraid at that time. But I love brother Khalid of how he was as a minister, and how he came and how he talked, and he really wanted us to really help. He really wanted us to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and that's what I loved. And he made sure that we had the broadcast. It was Respect for Life series, and he made sure that we listened to the broadcast each Sunday. And so he was pro-Islam. When I knew him, he was pro-Islam, loved the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know, that's the image that I saw of him. And that's what I can take with him. You know, the other stuff, I'm not taking that. You know, my memories is not of that. My memories of how he helped me and how I saw him with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and helping to resurrect the dead.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Teaching. And thank you, people who are showing love all across the country. We have some more questions. Brother Nelson Ramos says, Assalamu alaikum family, wa alaikum salam. Sister Naima says, Assalamu alaikum family, wa alaikum salam. Thank you, everyone who was showing, and like a family event. So like a family event, excellent. My next question for you, ma'am, is a lot this last week, I've interviewed a few believers about Minister Jabril and his study guides and how important it was for the type of study and what you all learned and back in the day to help assist with your faith being so strong as it is today for all of these decades. What was it about what you all were studying that has helped you personally from the study guides of Minister Jabril still be steadfast today?
His the study guides, I still have them, and I like the way he proves from the Bible, Holy Quran, and he didn't just go to the King James Version, the Maulana Muhammad Ali. I mean, that's just like standard. I mean, you even pick up the book, Is It Possible That the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is still physically alive? He goes through quite a few different translations.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's how he was. He made sure that you really knew your stuff. And he really made sure in the study guide that we talked about the different characters in the Bible and how they related to this time frame and how we could prove that it related to this time frame and how Black people are intricate detail of this time frame. And to me, I learned a lot in relationship to the trillions of years. He went through the time frame of the sun, and he was the one out of his study that was able to tell when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was going to leave, a day before, a day after, 2 days, something like that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And by him being like that, and he was correct. And so those study guides really taught me how to look at, and which I do today as being one of the student ministers, which that's what I like doing. I like going into Moses and who does Moses relate to? And these, it's the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but how is it related to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad? And Joshua, and how is Joshua related to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? And then Acts. What does Acts really mean? And he told us we had to look up words. Don't just take it for granted that you know what every word that you're reading. And now in Dianetics, when you falling asleep and looking at a word, that means you don't know what that means.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So if anything, he helped me to look up words and because this English is, you have one word, but it can mean so many different things. But how it relates to Islam and how the word acts is when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan he said he transitioned from Peter into Paul. So he made us look at these men, and we had to know who we were looking at as it related to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's what those study guides were about. And those study guides were about Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. How can you prove that Master Farad Muhammad is God? So they related to that. And how can you prove that the Jews in the book of Acts is not talking about the Jews of today, but it's talking about some Black people that really wanted to hold on to the old teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not old teaching, but they said, we don't need that new stuff, what you bringing, Paul. But Minister Farrakhan, they didn't want to come but he told us that, so he was pointing to these people and letting us know, no, you need to know who these people are and how it relates to you being a Muslim And you have to know the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and love him and be a part of this work. So those study guides helped me to not only fall in love with Brother Jabril and the way that he studied, but also how I began to know who the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is and was. So those study guides, I mean, if we can ever publish them again, that's some good reading for someone who likes to study, because everybody don't like to study.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we like to go, we like, you have dust on the books and you like blowing it off. You just like, you one of them pontificate type people.
Yes,
you like to have all the stuff, but do you go in the stuff and read the stuff? One of the sisters, she told me, I didn't know she saw me like this. She said her and another brother was talking, and she said, out of all the people you know, which sister do you see as studying? And she mentioned me. I'm like, what? You mentioned me? She said, yeah, I used to come to your house and used to have all them books all over your bed. That's what I did. I can't help it. That's just the type of person I am. I like the stuff. I didn't want to, high school, I was crying because I didn't want to leave. But I like to study. I love to study. And Brother Jabril was like that. And one of the study guides that we had to study that I remember to this day was about him. I'm pretty sure he didn't put it in there because of that, but it was about John the Beloved. And John the Beloved was a man who walked with Jesus and wrote everything Jesus did.
Yes,
and wrote everything he did, and that was Brother Jabril with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He wrote everything down what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did, and look what he did in his lifetime. So those study guides, if we can ever get them published, but even if we don't, we got This Is the One. And for anyone who want to read This Is the One, oh my goodness. I think one book and A Special Spokesman and Farrakhan the Traveler, those books he came out with. They were around the time he was doing the study guides. So the study guides, I hope we can get them again.
Yes, ma'am. Beautiful. And thank you everyone who's showing love to our sister all across the country. Now we have so many questions for you, and I really enjoyed speaking with you the other day. Shout out to your children who I didn't know were your children, but then you told me, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to your 5 amazing children and grandchildren as well. I wanted to know, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I heard it in, I think, 1980 and 81. I was in college, and I was at a junior college, which is called LACC, Los Angeles City College. And it was on the radio. I was driving in my car, and I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan saying something about Black people. I wish I could remember the words, but it was like, it made me like, oh, I want to go hear what he got to say. I ain't never heard nobody talk about Black people. And all through high school, I'm way in college, ain't heard nobody talk about Black people, not like him. And he was going to be speaking at the Scottish Rite, and it's in near Beverly Hills, near Beverly Hills. Really, it's in Los Angeles. And they have some hieroglyphics there. So it was in 1980. And at that time, he was speaking, and they had a form if you can fill out if you wanted to know more. And I filled the form out, and no one called me. So I'm like, okay, ain't nobody called. Which I was sort of glad, because I was still in school and I wanted to finish school.
Yes, ma'am.
So then one day, me and we wasn't married, me and my boyfriend at the time, we were driving down Crenshaw, and we saw Brother Khalid. And we asked Brother, he said, hey, that's Brother Khalid. So we flagged him down. He said, where the mosque meeting at? Where the mosque meeting at? And he told us. And then we went to the meeting, and then we didn't keep up that much because it kept moving from place to place.
Mm.
At that time, they had it at Reverend Reed's church in the basement. Then it was at 2 or 3 other different places. Then we stayed at the Bulling Cloth on Stockard near Crenshaw, and we stayed there. And that's where I really started at, on Stockard and Crenshaw. So I'll say about 80, 81. And then we moved from there on the corner of Crenshaw and Stockard, right on Front Street. And that's where I started.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And thank you for these exact dates and times. We appreciate this history of how Islam was established in North America, the rebuilding in the West Coast. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we thank Allah for you and your sacrifices and the sacrifices of your family to help establish Islam here in North America and Mosque number 27 and throughout the Western region. We appreciate you all's hard work and dedication, and we're grateful for that. How did your family and friends feel once you told them that you were going to accept the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
At that time, my family, they were not receptive. They said when I would go around them, because at that time I didn't have no children, and I would go around them with my garments on. They like, oh my God. Now, mind you, I didn't know till years later that all of them knew who the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was. This is like, what the heck? Y'all treat me like what? But anyway, they would say, what you got that long dress on for? Ain't you hot? You know, that's the same old thing.
Yes,
and then my mother thought it was just going to be a fad. And then, why you not eating pork? You know, you like pork. You main one up in there, which I was. Main one, always getting the ham and all this other stuff. Yeah, I used to do all that. I don't do that no more. So it was every time I went around my family, it was like, man, it's the worst. So I stayed away from my family for maybe 5 to 10 years, something like that. You know, I would go to every now and then I would go to maybe Christmas or something like that, because they was always there. As I stayed away, I was getting much stronger in how to deal with them. Instead of being, I felt at that time not strong enough to handle all that pressure. It was some pressure because I was the only one. I was the only one in my family. And then the more that I kept coming, my uncle told me years later that my family used to have meetings about me. I'm like, what? He said, yeah, we used to sit around and talk about you. And they, you know, talk about you and Islam and why she always there, and you know, whatever else they were saying. And he was so intrigued that he said he wanted to learn more. Now, this is my mother's brother, who's the same age as me. So that tells you that my grandmother and my mother were pregnant at the same time, which is an interesting thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So he told me that was interesting to him. So he wanted to learn more. And to this day, he sees me as someone very strong. And now he's a Muslim.
Go ahead.
And as a result of me staying, my cousin, I have 2 cousins that came and became Muslims. They don't come like they used to. And I have my other mother's sister. She lives in another state, and she used to be in Sacramento. To me, she should have been a captain because she was really good, but she didn't want to do that. But she moved to another state, so her health is not very well. But she lives in another state, and she said, I'm gonna be a Muslim till I die. That's her. So I'm like, whoa. So they gave me some difficulties coming in, but as the time progressed, and then my family, when I would go around them at different events, they like, okay, we don't have any over here at this table over here. It's nothing but the vegetables and the fruit over here. You see how I'm talking? Ain't no meat over here. And then
Yes, sir.
don't get none of them green because they still got some pork in there. I'm like, okay. So they eventually start accepting me. And to this day, all of them accept me as a Muslim, which is really amazing. Because I mean, Minister Farrakhan, he taught us well how to deal with our family and don't beat them up and all like that. So I listened and paid attention and did what he requested. And my family treat me totally different. And as a result of that too, today is really interesting. I thought my sisters, my mother, she had 6 children. My sister, I didn't think my sisters and my brothers, they used to always give me the hardest time. I was like the main one that everybody used to beat up on. And of course that affected my life. But today, my mother told me that my children, my 2 children, my 2 oldest grandchildren, she said, my sister told her that she's going to put them in her will. I'm like, what the heck? No, you didn't. I thought I was bad news bear with you, girl. I was like, okay, no, she didn't. And see, I told my mother, I said, you need to talk. I said, we don't have to be these crazy people. You know, when a person dies, you know, everybody want to fight over $5.
Yes, sir.
Said,
yes,
talk to everybody and get a feel for what's going on. And that's what she found out. So and I'm the only one. I have 5 children, and I was blessed with 5 children, and I have 8 grandchildren, and my sisters, 2 of them, one of them have 2 children, but the other 2, she has 1 child, and they don't never want to have no children. And then another sister, she has a daughter, and she don't never want to have no children. It's like, what the heck? So they don't want any children. I was getting ready to be the same person. So Islam definitely changed me. So I see, as a result of me populating the earth, Genesis, that, you know, my family is like looking out for being my children, my grandchildren. So I was very, very happy, you know, to hear that my family has come around with me being a Muslim. But I know it's as a result of how I'm acting, you know, as a Muslim around them. So I know that made the big giant difference. But I also know too, you know, me staying in Islam made the big difference, you know, and not leaving. Because, you know, that pressure was definitely great. And, you know, it's just like a child being aborted. And so I thank Allah very much for sticking and driving and not leaving, because now I can go around them and be much better around them, which I am. And my uncle, I mean, he cannot talk about me enough about how so happy he is that I am a Muslim. And he tells me all kind of different revelational things about me. I'm like, okay, you just doing too much. So he's something else.
Beautiful. All praises to Allah. And thank you to people who are showing you love all across the country, Sister Charisse, all over the country. But of course, the West Coast is tapping in heavy. Sister Captain Sultana out of student captain. She was a captain in Oakland for years. And thank you for everyone who's saying all praises to Allah. Sister Naima saying all praises to Allah. Beautiful. Yes, 100 and all these emojis. All right. My next question was, speaking of sisters in the captains, sisters in the ministry, who I've had the honor of interviewing many of these sisters, and as well as you now, who've been 30, 40 plus years, what advice would you give to the new generation about holding on, the younger generations to holding on to our faith, like as you all have done so far by the grace of Allah?
My advice is I want to say this in the right spirit, because we can be we can be a handful, coming in the mosque, dealing with the agitation in the washing machine.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And you thinking somebody's treating you a certain way just because, and that's not really what is happening. And so your intention has to really stay, you have to keep your eye on the prize. And that's what I think Brother Khalid and Brother Jabril did for me. It's not about brother and sister so-and-so that every time you come in there, she always got something to say to you, which she do.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, she gonna always got something to say. But if anything, we need to be like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Thank Allah that somebody is trying to always get you to do something and giving you a little agitation. What you think? You gonna be just not get nothing? Come on now. Well, all of us got to be tried.
Yes, ma'am.
You got to stick on something, and Allah, he's perfecting us. So thick skin, that's one word that I always think about. Thick skin. You got to have thick skin. But you have to. I know the fires that I had with the people that you have, it's really a blessing, because you're really beginning to know who you are when someone comes up to you and they, every time you turn around, they all up in your face. It's like, my God. And it's really an opportunity that you have to look at it as an opportunity of how you can meet and overcome all obstacles in your path. And you can't, and our sister Ava said it so wonderful. May Allah continue to be pleased with her.
Yes, ma'am.
She said, you don't run away from obstacles, you run to it. And she said that so often that I took that to heart, and that's what I have done. And that's my advice. Is when the people come to you and it's a difficulty, go home, pray to Allah to ask you, how can I overcome this? And it ain't gonna happen the first time you do it. You have to go, day one is she's like, yeah, right, girl. Okay. Day two, she back up in your face. Like,
yes, ma'am.
My boy. I thought we was atoning. No, don't happen that quick. No, don't happen that quick. It's like,
yes, ma'am.
But it's helping you to get rid of that fear, because it's easy to say, I fear no one but Allah. But when sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so all up in your, and you like, how am I going to get past this? It's easy. It's easy. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is an excellent example of that with Imam Warith D. Muhammad.
Go ahead and teach. Yes, ma'am.
And what he did to our nation, would raise a lot of eyebrows. But he did it with no bloody noses from none of us. We didn't go and attack nobody. You don't have to use no weaponry. What the heck? That's just you crazy. You don't need no weapons, because that's saying you a coward. You got to go pick up something to deal with your sister or your brother. You can't use your own mind. And Allah is so powerful.
That's right.
But we have to really be sincere and want to be a sister and a brother to our sister and brother, because the unity is what's going to get it. And I mean, the sisters that I had to come against what I noticed, the reason that I said it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, is because the same person that's coming up to you, that's giving you the difficulty, is something that you're really looking at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the ones that had that difficulty, me and the other sister, is I would not do it at the mosque, but when I got home, oh, my children got it. So how in the heck that I can't just, I knew how to hide mine. It's like,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But how am I growing? I'm not growing. And I had to, not only atone with my children for being crazy as all get out, but I had to go back to the sister and mend my ways.
Mm.
And it's not in the open. I'm not fronting her all in front of people. No, take her to the side. I did that so many times. Some of them I had to, she talking all loud. I had to get loud. It's like, wait a minute now. But eventually I talked to all of them one-on-one, just like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to them one-on-one. And believe you me, that works. And it helps get rid of your fear, because you're afraid when you don't want to talk to a person. Why don't you want to talk to the person? It's your sister. And one sister Bariam, who I love, she's my squad leader. I love her, my student squad leader. She told me the other day, she's like, I was telling her difficulty there. She's like, what? That's not Islam. I'm like, what? It's just that easy? She said, yeah. I'm like, okay, I can do this. So, wonderful. But the wonderful thing is what you're going to find, the brother or the sister, what you're going to find, the more you do that, the more genuine friendship you are going to have with the sisters and the brothers, because it's truly, Jesus said, my family is in the house. And that's who we have in our mosque. Our family is in the house, and you can't be coming up here all the time just angry at the world. What the heck, girl? You must need some. What they say, you need Jesus. Yeah, you need.
That's
Jesus.
Right. That's right. That's right.
But that sister or that brother, she sometimes they could be the agent, trying to disrupt. But whether she is or not, that's immaterial and baseless. That's another word Brother Jabril used to tell us. You still have to do what you have to do.
That's right.
And you have to. So my advice is when you see the difficulty, take that deep breath, pray to Allah that He helps you, and believe you me, He will guide you. And what I learned to do now is I call Master Farad Muhammad's name. I say, Master Farad Muhammad, please talk through me, because I don't want to go to this sister and cuss her out. I don't want to tell her what I really want to tell her. Please talk to me. And then sometimes, and several times, I'm standing in front of a person and they going there. I'm looking at them and I'm praying, right? When it's standing there, please, saying this in my mind, praying.
Yes, ma'am.
And because Allah has to be there. And, we have to learn how to establish peace in our nation. And
yes, ma'am.
We can't be just always being disruptive. But the sisters and the brothers that are having difficulty coming to the mosque, you have to find something that you have to come in there with your sleeves rolled up, not you sitting there with your brand new garment on and your brand new bow tie and suit on, and you just collecting dust. Come on now. It's no, you have to come in there and do some kind of work. And if you don't know how to do some work, what Allah has blessed me, I asked Allah to bless me to do something in the mosque. And he has blessed me to do the breakfast program. But you know, all of these things that I do I think we got the best people in Los Angeles.
Yes, ma'am.
Our student captain, our student ministers, like, okay, these are the best people on the planet. But you know, this is all I know. So they the best.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
So they are just, you know, when I ask if I can have the breakfast program or can I give out bean soup, this is me doing something. And the problem that I had was, remember I told you lateness. I used to be late. Mosque meeting starts at 10, 11 o'clock. I'm coming in there 5 minutes to 11. God, this is crazy. The class starts at 9 o'clock. I'm running in there at 2 minutes to 9.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I said, what can I do to get there early? But it's the work. So the work is, and Allah blessed me to come. I used to go downtown to pick up people to come to the mosque. That was my first thing. But it got me there early. Always to the mosque meeting on time, doing the work. And and I did that for about 3 years. And then the next thing was Sister Miriam. Me and her decided to give out bean soup. And so we go, she makes 30 and I make 30 little cups of bean soup, and we take it down the street. But we get to the mosque at 9, meeting starts at 11. So we get there sometime 9:30, 10 o'clock, and we go down the street. So I'm at the mosque meeting on time, all the time now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, but all of the ones who are having the difficulty of coming to the meetings, oh, I'm sick, I don't feel good. You may not, but try your best to find something that you can do to help. Some avenue that you can do to help Islam, because we have to propagate Islam. The nation is not going to never fall again. So what effort are you doing to help it to not fall again? And you can't, you know, you have to come. I learned, and this, and going back to what I told you, Brother Khalid, he's the reason that I'm doing this.
Yes, ma'am. Because
he did it. And our minister, Brother Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, that's what he does. Always working. So, you know, we have to share in the work. It's not one person, I did it. No, it's we, and we. But you have to be part of the we. So the ones who very rarely come into the mosque or very rarely coming, I suggest, you know, come in there with your sleeves rolled up. Sister, what can I do? You see a sister, this one last point, and then we can go on.
Yes, ma'am.
This is what I learned from Brother Khalid's wife. Her name was Sister Paula. And Sister Lillian and Sister Thelma, they used to say to us as the sisterhood in the 80s, when you see a sister in the mosque and you see her, because we used to sell food after the mosque meeting, and you see her working real hard, and then all you're going to do is get the food and leave. She said, no, don't be doing that. Ask what you can do to help. You don't have to, you definitely don't be having in your mind, well, how much money I'm going to get. Come on now. That's should be furthest thing from your mind. So the sister, she may need some help. You see her with, need some help. She the only one at the table. And she have 5 or 6 people around the table trying to do something. And you gonna be the 5 or 6 person, and you just gonna get your stuff and go. No, ask, could you help? She can say, at least she could say no. And one thing Minister Farkan told Brother Jabril, because I can say this one too. He said, brother, when someone's trying to give you something, it's their charity. And you can't deny them of their blessing.
Mm.
And sometimes we as sisters and brothers, we're gonna say, no, I got it. Please, I don't do that no more. I have all kind of stuff in my hand, and I see a brother coming up. He says, sister, can I have? Oh, yes, sir. Here, take that. Yeah, you take that. You could deny you of no blessing. No, here, you can go on and handle it.
Yes, man. Beautiful. Now, so Charisse, and speaking of blessings and charity, thank you. I just want to we have so many more questions for our sister. Read some of the comments. His name said that's beautiful. Sister Giselle says phenomenal. Sister Brandy Dean, I make like Islam. Sister Sultana, fear restricts. Yes, ma'am. Sister Valerie says you're teaching, sis. Sister Shauna Joy says that's my sister right there. I pray to have half the believer she is. May Allah continue to bless her with success. Sister Menzaisha says Charisse is a real one. People just showing you love, Black girl magic, all that good sisterhood stuff and all that. All right, we have a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. And we'll be right back. And thank to our sister, Sister Charisse, she's giving us some amazing information as well as inspiration. We thank you for every like, share, and subscription, as well as every anonymous Cash App to the People's Podcast we're receiving. We truly appreciate all of the
camera and a drone.
support.
He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon.
Wonderful. And we also have a book called Exclusively for You, Black Man, Sister Helen, The Black Man's Sacred Book. It is a book of poetry and spoken word, phenomenal. HRSPATROL42@gmail.com. Exclusively for you, Black Man. It is a book of poetry dedicated to the Black man. Thank you very much, Sister Helen. One moment, we're coming right back to our sister Charisse. There's a special tribute being done this upcoming month to our brother Minister Bettine. May Allah be pleased. A tribute in honor of his great legacy of being a musician, and we thank Allah for him. There we go. Boom. And we just want to play this real quick, and then we're right back to our guest, Sister Charisse. She's doing a phenomenal job. Here we go. Come on, there we go. Almost there. Boom.
Macon, Georgia is a city rich in musical history. From the soulful sounds of Otis Redding III to the funkadelic grooves of Baten, this town has produced some true legends. On August 6th at 6 p.m., we gather at the historic Douglas Theater to pay tribute to these greats of Macon. It will be a special night as the All-Star Band takes the stage. Joining forces, the band will perform songs that were dear to Baten, Jamal Thomas, Otis Redding III, and Tony Bone Dorsey. Tonight, they come together to create pure musical magic. The guitar effortlessly weaving melodic solos that touch your soul. The heartbeat of the rhythm section driving the groove with infectious energy. The All-Star Band carries on the legacy, echoing with the same raw passion that captivated audiences decades ago. Together, these extraordinary musicians pay homage to Macon's music legends, honoring the legacies that helped put this city on the musical map. This night at the historic Douglas Theater, we celebrate the spirit of Macon and the indelible mark these greats have left on the world of music. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime performance.
Boom.
Get your
Excellent.
tickets now and
And Sis
join us
Charisse,
for
you are receiving so much love all across the world. And we want to make sure that we show love to Asiatic Minds and online school where they teach STEM to young kings and queens virtually all across the country. Please sign your student up, your children, niece and nephew up to Sister Sherry's school, Asiatic Minds Online. Please enroll your child. Boom. Okay, ma'am. Now we spoke of a very serious incident that took place dealing with your now husband and what took place at the home with the invaders. Could you let us know about that situation, ma'am?
Yes, sir. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she had a boyfriend, and domestic violence was her relationship, along with my relationship. And I mean, in the past. And it's just, so it didn't surprise me. One of my children I knew was going to have a domestic issue. So it was her. I didn't know it was going to be as traumatic. So the day of the incident, it was about 5-something in the morning. And my husband, Eddie, we were waking up for prayer. And we had already woke up for prayer. And my daughter, she had her daughter, which was a few months old, and they were in the front room, and she heard a noise at the window. And she came knocking at my door saying, I heard something. So my husband said, well, we're not going to deal with this right now. We're getting ready to say prayer. So he said, we're going to sit down and say prayer. So we said prayer. And then he went up there to find out what it was. He said, ain't nothing there, nothing like that. Then he said, well, call the police. So we called the police and they came. And they said, well, nobody's here. The police came to the door. They said, nobody's here. And then we thought they left. But as soon as they left, he either was already in the house or was getting ready to come in the house. So he lifted up the window and came in the house. And then the incident happened where my husband went back in the room to see what was going on. And as he was going to the room, this is when he came out with the gun and started shooting at my husband. And, you know, when you have a traumatic incident, one person see one thing and you don't know who saw what. So me and my daughter was in the front room on the couch. So my story was different than her story and my other daughter's story, which was amazing because we all were there, but it's traumatic. And I'm sitting watching him getting shot. And it was like looking at a movie. And he had got shot 9 times. And no bullets was on the wall, which was amazing, that was on the wall in my house. So then he was trying to grab the gun from him. He still was living. He was trying to grab the gun from him and didn't. And then he proceeded to go to the back. Well, no, I think he shot towards me and I immediately said, oh Allah, please bless me. And I think that the bullet just flew past my head. That's just what I think. And then me and my husband, we were the only one in the front room. So we both was running towards the front door to leave. Now, mind you, I had 2 of my children in the back bedroom and my granddaughter. They was in the back room. So we going out of the house. And then my husband, as soon as he got out of the front door, we finally made it out of the front door. And I saw him on the ground, and I was getting ready to turn the corner and run. I'm like, I don't know where I was going, but I was, this is my life. He had a gun. I was scared. Immediately in my mind, Allah put in my mind, go back inside. I'm like, I immediately went back inside. I didn't question it. I didn't, say maybe I shouldn't. I didn't think about it at all. I just went inside. So I went through the front door and went down the hallway, and then I heard the ruckus in my daughter's bedroom. And as soon as I assessed or saw my daughters and him there, I just grabbed everyone and just start saying, Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. And then I would move everyone. And I grabbed everyone, got a little air, and then grabbed all three of them. These are three adults. Grabbed all three of them, just saying Allah is the greatest all through the hallway. And it took minutes to do this. And then we got to the living room. I'm still gathering, holding everybody. He still had the gun in his hand. And I'm still holding everyone. And then we went from the living room back to the front door. And my daughter at that time, one of my daughters, she left and ran out the front door. And my daughter, who she's the girlfriend of the boy, she was still there with me. And so I grabbed them all and we got to the front doors. I'm still saying Allah is the greatest each time. And when we got to the front door, I think this is what happened. I took the gun and threw it. And then I saw the police right there in front. I said, you can come and get them. And they came and got it. And to this day, I don't know. Allah just was he had his hand in everything, because all that time that we were inside, the police were outside. And then after that, just goes to show you how many numbers you need to remember. I only remembered Sister Valerie's phone number by heart. So I called her, and my mother, she lives down the street. And so I called her and told her what happened. And this was about 7 in the morning, around 7 in the morning. And my daughter, she was also shot on the side. I don't know where, she don't even know how she got shot. And I had, my hand had glass in it. And of course I didn't feel it until way later. I never felt it because it was glass. We had a glass front door window and it was glass all on the ground. And so they took my husband. So the ambulance had already been there. So that they took him immediately to the hospital. And after I called Sister Valerie, and after I called my mother, you would think the whole mosque was there at the hospital. Sister Valerie called, my mother was there, my grandmother was there, all my aunts and uncles was there, and I don't know how many believers were there. And it was just an amazing time. And my uncle, he told me 2 things. He said, he said, it was in my mind to do something to him. Said, but I didn't. And it's a good thing he didn't, because it was a lot of things that transpired from that time up until today. So he didn't do nothing to him. And they took him, of course, to jail, and he had a court date, and he got put in jail. He's also out. out of jail.
Mm.
And so far, Allah has blessed us, nothing to happen from then up until now. And him at the hospital, my husband at the hospital, Allah really blessed him to survive out of being shot 9 times. And he blessed my daughter. She had to get a water bed. She had colostomy, I guess that's what they call it. But she was okay. She was okay as well. I had to get stitches in my hand, so I was okay. And my granddaughter, she was okay. My other daughter that was there, the one that ran out the front, she was at the police station, and they were questioning her. I guess they thought she, whatever, I don't know what they were doing. She said they were questioning her. And our minister, Brother Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, he was the one that went to the police station and got her out and united her with the rest of our family.
Wow.
And but to at one point, his mother and I, we had difficulties about that. But Allah has truly blessed me to know that it was an experience and an incident that happened. And I don't hate him for what he did. It was a lesson for all of us. And of course, my husband, he survived, my daughter survived. And it was just an experience of my lifetime. And, you never know what's going to happen. But me and the sister, as the years passed, I can now speak with her. She can speak with me. And, we have a, what do you call it? Talking relationship now, which is because she's a Muslim. And her son grew up in the nation as well. So, but it happens in our nation. You definitely never know what's going to happen in your lifetime, and how you deal with it is each and every day. That's why I continue to pray to Master Farah Muhammad, that he will continuously bless me, because none of us know the hour and how we are going to go.
That's right.
And I thought that was going to be, my life was going to end back then, and my husband's life was going to end back then, but it didn't. So I just thank Allah very much for this happening. And, I pray for him that, it was something in his life, which happens to a lot of men or women who have abusive relationship, and it gets to this part where, it's just like our Shabazz. He wanted to blow up the whole planet. That's the reason we got the moon out there.
That's right.
So, that's that thing is still in our people. It's still in us. It's still in, if I can't have you, nobody can have you. You're like, wait a minute now. But that's the mentality. But that's that Shabazz. And I guess I'm pretty sure he's the one. That's that gene,
That's
or
right.
that cell that's still lodged in us, and we have to get it out. But Islam will get it out. And the only way that I know, my husband, who I have now, I didn't know this till years later, that he was abusive to his wife, one of his wives. I don't know how abusive he was, but his daughter said he wasn't nothing nice. But he didn't do that to me. So I know Islam heals everything in us. And Islam is going to heal all of us of these demons that's inside of us. And one thing I did know is as soon as he got out, he did get in contact with our student captain, Brother Halim Muhammad. I know that for sure. So that's, to me, that was a good sign, for him.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but I'm trying to now, that scripture, not being afraid with the arrow by night.
That's right. That's right.
I'm still living my life. Of course, I'm try to be security minded as much as I can, but I'm not, fear restricts.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm trying not to live my life in fear of, this is going to happen. But the only way that I am like this is because I have a wonderful person who's on the phone right now, on the podcast, Sister Miriam, who was my auditor.
Mm.
And getting audited about that incident that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said we should get audited with these traumatic experiences, that's what helped.
Yes, ma'am.
And, definitely prayer and definitely praying. And the one thing that I saw in this, I did not realize, I thought two things that amazed me of this is, one is, I did not know that I love my children like that.
Mm.
That was amazing to me, to even go back in the house. I was like, what? I mean, I had these children, they give me heck as all get out. I'm like, please. That's probably why I ran out the first time. They ain't there by themselves. They handle it. Oh, Jesus.
Yes, ma'am.
But Allah said, no, girl, you get your little self back in there and get them children. These are your children. Ma'am. I'm like, I couldn't even question. So I didn't know. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that at all. So that was amazing to me, that I went inside. So it just probably just says something about, the scriptures about the women would do whatever they have to do for their children.
That's right.
I didn't know that I was going to live that kind of life, to see it for myself.
Yes, ma'am.
To bear witness to myself. Like, whoa. So, that was amazing to me. And the other is my husband, he has dementia now. And one of the things that I'm thankful to is him being shot. And now I'm taking care of him. And I thank Allah for not putting him in a home, because this is one of the things that I'm like, he saved my life, my children's life, my granddaughter's life. He saved our lives. So I'm not going to throw him to the wayside. I'm like, no, Allah, please continue to bless me to show gratitude, for someone that did this for you. And he was, brave, real brave. Real brave. So you never know what's going to happen to you in life. And another thing is, I didn't realize about prayer, how I didn't know what type of believer I was going to be. And I often heard is you always should prepare yourself and for something that's going to happen, and you don't know what's going to happen. If Allah put it in my mind, go inside, I didn't tell myself that.
That's right.
Put that in my mind. Whether you believe it or not, I don't care if you do believe it or not. I know it happens. whoever talking about, no, girl. Yeah, right. Okay. If he wants you to do something, you are going to do it.
Wow.
And you have to and you have to obey. and not question. But I didn't even have time to even question, whether to do it or not to do it. It's because we have these things, whether to do it or not to do it, because we quiet that voice inside. I didn't
Yes,
even
ma'am.
think about quieting that voice inside.
Mm,
So that was a revelation for me. I didn't realize I loved my children to the degree that I was going to, this is how I'm going to die. This is how I'm going to die. That wasn't even part of it either. I just went in there. He said, go in there, get your children. And that's what I did. So that was just a heck of an experience that, we, and one last point is, abuse has always been in my family. My grandmother, she was the abuser. I didn't know this until a few months ago. She was the abuser, not the abusee. She was the abuser. She said, my mother said she always kept stuff going. I'm like my mother. Now she wasn't, but 5'2", 5'1" or 5'2", just had what they call hell on wheels.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
That was my grandmother. She was something else. So, and my mother said they used to fight all the time. Her and my grandfather every weekend, but she was the one that started all the time. And my mother, she met my father, and he was the abuser, and she was the abusee, and she stayed in the relationship. So here I'm coming on the scene, and my first husband, he was the abuser and I was the abusee, and I stayed in the relationship, and here's my daughter meeting somebody. So this thing trickles down and to one generation to the next generation. And I was trying my best to stop it, that was because it's a cycle. And don't think that the abuser is the main problem. No, both of them is the problem, because she's staying or he's staying and she's staying. You don't be talking about it's all his fault. Child, it's your fault too. You staying. You just as sick as him because you staying.
Yes, ma'am.
So I couldn't definitely point the finger. So I didn't know which child was going to do this. And I see different things come up in all of my children. Different, my children all have a trace of that relationship, what they saw in me and their dad. And all of them are different. And it's just an amazing thing that triggers a lot of relationships. And Minister, the only way that I got out, I don't know why it led to this. I'm so sorry. But the only way the only way that I got out was I stayed for a long time, and it was part of the way that Minister Farrakhan told us one day to ask your mother, when she was pregnant with you, what was she thinking? And my mother, what was she doing? And that's when she told me, and she said, girl, I don't know what I did back then, because I was born in 1955, a long time ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And but Allah blessed her to remember. And she said she saw my father having a relation with another woman. And she stayed in the relationship and had 4 more other children. So that was the negative side of abuse for me, is I stay in bad relationships that do mental or physical harm to me. And I didn't never know how to get out. And once I realized that, I never realize that until Minister Farrakhan shared that with us of how to do it. So that's when I started getting help. I started going to different women's conferences, and I was always wondering, why am I attracted to the domestic violence portion of yeah, they got all kind of stuff going on, and I'm always gravitating toward the domestic violence part. What
Yes, ma'am.
I'm, male female relationship. No, domestic violence. It's you, girl. Okay. So, my thing was, I said, I was just amazed. The sisters on the panel. I was like, how did they leave? I didn't think because that was my thing. I knew I was in, needed to do something. And I'm a Muslim all this time now. And nobody knew. And when somebody finally knew, it was Sister Amina who told. And I was mad at her for a long time. Oh Lord, she know I was mad at her too, because I had to tone with her about that being bad. And but I was mad at her for telling, but the women who were on the panel, I was so amazed that they left the relationship. And I'm like, how did you leave? Because I got so trapped up into the fear factor and so trapped up into being a Muslim, not getting divorced, all of that going on in my mind. Time progressed, and Allah blessed me with one of the sisters in the mosque. I often tell this story to some of the sisters from time to time, is that there was a sister in the mosque, Sister Brenda. Me and her never talked. And I used to, assalamu alaikum, that sort of thing. And she was the one that stayed with me through the restraining order and the divorce. And she helped me to realize that I was in a domestic relationship, because I didn't want to face the reality that I was. And during this time frame, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did a tape on abuse of the female. And he said, any sister that is in an abusive relationship, you should not stay in that relationship. Something to that effect.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was like, okay, that's like the light bulb turning on. It's like, okay, you'll tell me twice about that one.
Yes, ma'am.
Finally know that that's what I was in. And I'm like, okay, come on, Allah. It's like, but the sister, to this day, she only was there with me for about 4 or 5 months. I don't even know where she is right now. So she was there for me for that brief moment to help me through that process, because I was praying. I was like, I didn't know how to lead on my own. I didn't know what to do, how to do it, nothing like that. And she helped me. To this day, I thank Allah very much for her. But she's a Muslim helping another sister. And she know how she and it was so interesting. She's the one that really, pulled my coat to, girl, you just as crazy as him. I'm like, yeah, I sure am. You stand in that crazy relationship. She said, I'm the same way. I stayed in the relationship too. Some women, some women and men.
Absolutely.
Men too, that the abusive relationship with these women who just crazy as all get it, like my grandmother, hell on wheels. And we can get out. But I know what helped me is being in Islam, definitely. Because some of the sisters told me that they are, still we're Muslims and we still in those relationships, and we should not be in those relationships. And we do have help, and some of us physically will survive, and some unfortunately would not physically survive.
Yes, ma'am.
But I know one thing, I kept praying to Allah that I will physically survive, and that I would He would physically survive. My children will physically survive. That was my constant prayer to Allah, Master Farad Muhammad. And he blessed me.
Yes, ma'am.
He blessed me. And the one thing to help me get over the last fear is one day I was just looking at something, a paper that I wrote. I used to write papers all the time. And one that I wrote, it was in 2002. And I was at my mother's house. And she said I could stay there with me and my 5 children. And we stayed there for a few months. And then I decided to come home, and which was down the street from where I live. And when I got home, it was January, and I was at sleep. It was 2 a.m, and that woke me up is because I felt some fear. This is how I'm getting ready to tell you how Allah blessed me to get rid of fear. 2 things,
Yes,
not only this thing, but another thing too. This one is I was 2 a.m. is I woke up because I felt this fear inside my body, and it was like releasing in my body. And I physically felt it. It was very strange. And it woke me up. So I woke up and I'm like, and I was in the dream, and I thought about Allah. I said, oh, Allah, please help me. Because I was feeling fear that like a man was coming towards me, was going to do harm to me. And then that fear, as I thought about thought about Allah, then the fear released. That was the first one. Then I went back to sleep and woke back up. The same thing happened again. The fear was coming inside of me. And I saw this man coming towards me. I'm asleep now, 2 something in the morning. And then the person coming to, I said, oh Allah, Moses, I'm thinking about Moses. Moses, please come and help. Like he had a helper with Aaron.
Yes,
I don't know
ma'am.
why I'm thinking about all this, but I was. And as I was thinking about that, that's when the fear was releasing out of my body. Slowly releasing. And then the last one was, I'm like, this is way too strange. So I'm like, oh Allah, I don't know what's happening, but you know what's going on. So I went back to sleep again. And the same thing happened, fear in my body. And I can physically feel it now. And I thought about, I'm ready to just lay on the ground and just die. And this sister Chinerium, who's she doesn't live here anymore, but she was a sister in the mosque. I don't know why I thought about her, but she said, brother, leave that sister alone. She's not doing anything. She's okay right here. I was just ready to die. But as she was coming, then that fear released out of my body. That was so strange. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was when I got married to my husband, Eddie, and I was still afraid of my husband, a little bit afraid, not as much. So I'm married and he's still calling me on the phone. Still don't know how to get rid of the ex now. You see how crazy we are. These are abused women now. These abused women. So I'm just telling you about the abused women. It's probably some on the line like, girl, I know I'm just crazy. Yeah, you are. So this is one thing that really helped me. My husband, Eddie, he said, who are you talking to? I said, I'm just on the phone. He said, give me that phone. He said, brother, you don't need to call here no more. You don't need to say nothing to her. I got her. And if you want to call here, you call here just for these children. You don't need to deal with her at all. And hung up the phone. Like, okay, excuse me. To that day, when we got married, to this day, he ain't never called again.
Go ahead, Brother Eddie.
I'm like, okay, I don't have to be afraid of nothing no more. Okay, now.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful.
So those are the things, that just dealing with fear. But being a Muslim, I really can say that being a Muslim has really helped me to know. And really, it's all Brother Jabril, him. making everything so real for me, at that time frame when he was our minister, he made everything so real to me about study and why I study and the importance of study and why we're praying and prayer works and you will get things happening when you pray. So that's so I'm just a living witness for myself, and everyone, of course, they have to, experience it themselves. You can't be hearers of the word, you got to be a doer of the word.
That's
But
right.
that's
That's
easier
right.
said than done because I'm still trying my best to be a doer of the word myself. I can say I'm all that in a bag of chips, but that's just me talking to myself.
Yes, ma'am.
But yes, sir. But that's it.
Excellent. Well, Sis Charisse, you have done a phenomenal job and are doing a phenomenal job. People are showing you love all across the country. Yes, we will. I bear witness. Yes, it does happen. All praise to Allah. This is truly our greatest protection. Allahu Akbar. The mosque responded immediately. Another sister said that she was there. Sister Miriam said, all praise to Allah. Sister Valerie said, we love you and thank Allah that He spared you all. Beautiful. Well, seeing as that you're a student in the ministry class, we have so many more questions for you. We got to ask you to come back for part 2 if that's possible. Is that possible?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. You don't have to tell me twice. Oh, praise be to Allah, Brother Joshua. Brother Joshua, I just wanted to say thank you for Allah blessing you to do this because number one is you're excellent interviewer. I thank Allah very much. Your mother and your father, I don't know have you ever asked them what they were doing, what your mother did when she was pregnant with you?
No, ma'am. That's a great question. No, I have not. I did not ask her that.
It may have something to do with your work, what you're doing right now.
Absolutely.
One of the brothers, may Allah be pleased with him, Brother Linnell, he told me his mother used to travel all the time. And he was like, I don't know why I like to travel all the time. But when Minister Farrakhan asked me to go ask my mother, he said, whoa, she liked to travel, so I like to travel.
Mm.
But I was going to mention one last thing. And the bad side is with the abuse, but the good side of going through what I have gone through and staying in bad relationship, the good side is how I'm always looking at now, like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has helped me, is the way that he looked at his life with his mother, what she tried to do. And so the good side with me is I am always at the mosque. I always come. I didn't know, that I was going to be that type of person. And some of the sisters who have left, brothers or sisters who have left for many years and come back, they say, you still here? Heck yeah, I'm still here. Ain't you? Yes. I had to run up in this mosque. Yes. It's saving my life. And I don't know, it's not something that I was trying to do, but it's something that I do. And so the bad side was the abuse part, but the good side is now that I'm in Islam, that same person, I have to turn it into something good. And so how the good side is what am I doing in Islam now that I'm giving life more abundantly? So what am I going to do? So that's what I do. I come to the mosque. I've been I'm trying to do, I've been the MGT of the year several times. Go ahead. Two times. I ain't trying to do all this, but I am student lieutenant, paper captain, sold a lot of fish, had 17 stores. Every time I turn around, I'm doing something. But that's the side that I'm pulling on. That's the side that Allah's attributes in me. So even though I had that bad stuff going on, I'm learning how to turn that bad stuff into something good. So I just wanted to mention that last thing.
Oh, yes,
So,
ma'am.
but Brother Joshua, you are doing such a phenomenal job. And I thank Allah very much for you,
Thank
for
you.
taking out the time, not only taking out the time to talk to me before we got on here. I said, I said, you sure I'm not talking to you too long? He said, no, you cool. But that's it's almost like you were born to do what you're doing. So,
Praise be to God.
I pray a lot that you ask your mother and your father what was they doing and thinking about when they had you, because you do it with ease.
Praise be to
And
God.
that's what Brother Jabril told us one day. He said, anything you like doing, and you don't have to look at the clock to see, is it time yet? That's what you're born to do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
If you don't have to look at the clock and say, okay, it's time's up, make sure you take all your breaks and all that stuff. No, that's not what you're born to do. But if you don't have to look at the clock and you feel that this gives you life and you feel wonderful, and that's what I see in you. You doing what Allah had you to do at the right time to do what you're doing. So I thank Allah very much for you, Brother Joshua. You're doing a phenomenal job. Yes, sir. May Allah continue to bless you and your efforts. And I forgot to ask you, are you married?
No, ma'am, I'm not married.
Oh, Brother Joshua, come on now.
Okay, Charisse, we'll talk off air about that. My God.
I forgot to ask you about that. I should have asked you that off air. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I'm like, okay. You know what I'm saying? We'll discuss.
Turn this stuff around.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Brother Joshua.
I know it's all good. Yes, ma'am. Well, once again, I want to thank you on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast for taking time out of your busy schedule to come give us some amazing information as well as inspiration. And we look forward to hearing part 2. I'm going to call you right after this so we can schedule part 2, because I want to come back and ask you about point number 12, being an assistant in ministry. Is it possible that the Most High Elijah Muhammad is physically alive? All of your studies and your favorite lectures and time to speak to the women in Islam, to the to the congregation in as a whole, but specifically what advice do you give to sisters? We want to bring you back for that. And once again, I thank Allah for you and the family. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Praise be to Allah.